Welcome to Testify, where our faith in Jesus keeps growing. Today, we continue with a recap of the testimonies that have been shared on the year 2022.
Fatherhood for me it's a blessing.
Samuel Kariuki, aka Karis, a radio presenter on Hope FM, shares his story of growing up and his longing for a father figure in his life.
Going to high school, I was a bright kid. I can say that, considering mali nilikuwa and the opportunities that used to come my way.
Okay.
Like a private school inaweza funguliwa hapo mtaa and they want bright kids. The first kido alikuwa anachukuliwa kutoka kwa shule, ilikuwa tuende huko ndo tupite mtihani, hiyo shule ipate.
Wow.
But saa mimi sikuwa na survive kwa hizo shule sana. I will go there a week or two.
Oh, because of discipline issues.
Because of discipline issues. Nirudi Munyaka primary. So KCP, I passed. I wanted to go to a boarding school that mother kupata do. Remember mom calling me, was like, your sister anafanya final year, alikuwa anafanya accounts sticker. Ajalipia mtihani. And so tukiweka kwa weighing scale yake ni muhimu kuliko yako na tu form 1. So twende kwa day school hapa hivi, then nimlipia. Then next year atakupeleka boarding.
Alright.
So mtu yote anaambiwa hivyo na mzazi, ukishaingia ni hivyo. Unaingia kutoka form 2 kwa form 3. But I used to, when they talk about my dad, mom will say, hey, baba yenu kwa anakuja tu anachukua watoto shule, anawapeleka Kisumu, anawapeleka Mombasa. Hizo hata na uniform. Nalikuwa naenda kwa bai ya nguo huko mbele. And mom will be like, watoto hawajatoka shule, then sando wanaletwa. Like, so that kind of lifestyle. And me, I used to see we are struggling. Kama si your plot, sijui atakaa tungesoma. Tulikuwa tunakujanga nyumbani. Wote, baada anauza TV, ama anauza radio, ama anauza ina. But your plot ilikuwa inatupatia security that tutapata rent mwisho wa mwezi, baada atapata stock yani. So I used to ask, mbona tu mimi nikazaliwa wakati mzaya yuko. No, they're talking about a time of plenty.
Yeah.
And me, I'm here. Man, is just then there's a perception huko nje because land yetu ndo mrefu. Sasa at least wamejenga magorofa ilikonga Kariso budget nyinyi mnakoka na kitu. Lakini hakuna kitu mkifukuzwa shule ni hivyo.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really felt I needed a dad. A part of me still feels, man, I wish I enjoyed the presence of a father figure. And I think that also pushes me so much now with my boy, and God blesses me with more kids pia. I used to sleep at times kwanza kati tumefukuzwa shule. Nasema ningekuwa na mzai. Then it's even worse because I cannot mourn my dad simjui.
Au kummeet.
And no matter how I want to like feel him, and I cannot.
Yeah, for sure.
Even when they are talking about him, mpaka leo me I'm seated there. Hata nikiona mwingine anamwaga machozi, I'm like, why are these people crying? Me, I don't know him.
Yeah. Okay.
Then the reality of if you are absent from somebody's life, you can end up just being, unajua tu ni mimi tu ndo babako, ile tu ya DNA and stuff.
Story.
So I used to also feel guilty that I cannot mourn this man, I cannot cry, I cannot talk about him. The only thing I felt we had in common was I loved music. He was a musician. The kind of music he was doing, Kikuyu music, I cannot do that hata nikitaka. So there was a gap in me that really needed a dad, and also that gap felt guilty. I cannot feel my dad, I cannot mourn my dad, I cannot talk about my dad.
Because you had no connection.
Yes, and everywhere I go, and Kienda Ocha, when people talk about my dad, everybody knows more about my dad
than you,
me.
The son.
So I used to feel like,
so
nilifeel hata my sister made a joke. Kaniambia hata unajuanga uko sure kama wewe ni wetu. And it was a joke, but I took it very seriously. I was like, "Kenyewe tupige hesabu." Tupige hesabu. How easy vitu zinaenda. So I struggled with the presence of a dad. And then I used to look at now other people out there who kind of felt like father figure or something. And the people I used to see sana are the people who used to date my sisters.
Okay.
The vijana wenye ni chalia sister yangu. Ama sengine wale wasioerevu wenye wana sister yangu wanaleta mtaa. And all these guys had one thing in common. They used to drink.
So now you're in high school.
Now I'm in high school. Hata wakakuja hata kwa day school. Hata wakakuja. I started seeing them nikiwa primary. My sisters were teenagers. So nilikuwa nawaona. And those are the people I used to admire. Because I used to feel like I struggled to get my sisters' attention. But hawa si manze, hata sister madhe anawagombanisha juu yao wase nikitoka hivi mtaa kwa pool na kutoa na kunywa mavitu. So I used to think, you know, these are the kind of people my sisters roam with. These are the friends my sisters have. And then me and my bro's like 16 years older than me. Hatukuwa na anything in common, per se. Conversation haikuwa. You know, kwa toka enda nikiingia kwa nyumba, toka umeoga, umefanya nini. It was so hapo kulikuwa na drift. So these are the people I used to see, and then these are the people I used to admire. And watu walikuwa wanipatianga 20 bob. Nibaye kwa mandazi shika kwa sababu wana date sister yangu ama wako na interest. So think wase wako na do. So those are the people I looked up to. Wow. And when I went for circumcision, these are the guys who used to come to visit me.
Wow.
And they will tell me things, they will bring me alcohol, they would, they had like a straight, okay, those traditional things, unakuja, unafundishwa crap, unapigwa. So these are the people I knew. Nikitoka Kutairi, these are the people I used to hang out with. Ama naenda kuwasikiza.
Later, his life would change and preach to others about salvation.
So Karis, the joy of salvation.
I was peaceful in all that I was peaceful in the fact that the friends I used to think we were friends for life were not in the picture, and I was okay. You know, those campus buddies, mzee tukitoka. No, they call me. I go to the events. I just don't go drink with them. You know? But I had sikuwa na vacuum ya beste. Manze nafurahisha hivi. Hata wale wa mtaa, you know, sikuwa nayo. I would go play football maybe nikiwa home. Hapa kama when I now came to Hope FM, I had joined a hockey team. And you know I still play hockey. These guys, we play together in campus. We used to drink together. And for those who play field hockey, the lifestyle is like after a game, go drink, go do this, go do this. I've played with them for 3 years now. I don't go for drinks. You know, that for me is a peace that I really cherish. They even call me. Some of them, hey Karis, wewe kujangizi vitu. Lakini ukikuwa na sisi unakaga ni kama wewe tu ni mmoja wetu. You know, si ati tukitrain mimi ndio nimeokoka. Tunapiga malap pamoja, ma sit-ups, tuna make jokes pamoja. After that wakienda hivi, misiko. And some of them call me. Some of them I'm working with them, I'm praying with them concerning that. Because now they see, tuko na huyu mse. Then I was there, jobless. I was there, they were making fun of me. Nimeokoka. Then they have stories ya wakati tulikuwa tunakunywa kampo, vile tulienda sijui wapi, nilala chini ya basi, nini. They will tuanga those stories. Wakati nilikuwa nauzia tu vest hapo hivyo. And now I'm in radio, wananisikia. Karisa amesettle, they will see, amepata kanganya nini. As they see, you know, they ask me, Karis, ni God. Some of them now want to have that God who transforms in their lives.
Right.
Me and my wife, the biggest thing my wife bado leo hajawahi understand ni venye tunaweza kwa issue. I mean, mwambie God na tusort. Na maybe hiyo issue ni issue tunafaa kukaa chini, tunafaa kufanya. Mimi niko na peace.
Yes.
Niko na peace. Mungu anajua kenye nataka. Mungu anajua. Mungu anataka more for me than vile nataka for myself.
Next is Pastor Daniel Ngao, who survived a fire incident when he was in high school, which left more than 50 students dead.
2001, I was in Form 3 when the school I was in, Changuli, the boys' dormitory got burnt, and we lost 67 of my schoolmates, I would say that. Classmates, desk mate, actually. I lost my desk mate. And so my life became empty. It was like when somebody rubs off the blackboard, you know, you need to begin afresh. And that is how my life, I feel it really changed.
It's really changed.
Drastically. Yes.
So actually it was like all your classmates died or just specific several?
Not all of them, but most.
Sure.
Yes. I would say after that we began school afresh.
began
because
school afresh.
because most of my classmates never came back after that, even those who survived. I would say much happened from that night on 27th of March 2001, because when the police came at night, we were instructed to go to our classrooms.
Sure.
Some of us, we were freezing because we just ran from the fire. You were in shorts, maybe a t-shirt, and then we were there. But nobody thought.
It was so traumatizing.
It was very bad, but there was a lot of hope that whoever is not in the class is in hospital.
Okay.
We knew that there were people that were taken to hospital. So nobody imagined that anyone had died, and even maybe one or two. It was until the following day at 8 a.m. when the third Minister of Education, His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, came, and we were called to assemble. So when we went there, he regrettably announced that he's sorry that some of the boys did not survive. So deep in my heart, with that heavy cloud, deep in my heart, I just thought maybe one or two people. And then I never thought there was anyone very close to me. But later in the day, the news, parents started coming to school. My dad came. By then he was alive. He came. I think he was also traumatized by the news because he walked past me. I kept calling him. I followed him, calling, and I'm not sure he knew where he was going. So until I pulled him from the back, he turned, called me, called my name. He shed tears and went away. I never saw him again until I went home.
Sure.
So later on, the then president, the late Daniel Moi, came, and the Red Cross team, the trucks, and now looking at the bodies, the charred bodies, loaded to about 4 trucks.
Yeah.
It was
Traumatizing.
it was so bad.
Yeah.
Parents crying, parents getting, what do I call it? Crying uncontrollably. And especially the parents that had not seen their children in hospital and in school. So one would conclude that my son is
dead.
one of,
Yeah.
my son's body is one of the charred bodies. It was very bad. So later in the evening, we were released to go home. I went home with my sisters who had come there, and my cousins. I had burnt my left leg toe. Yes. So that time when I went home, I knew I was traumatized because at times I would hallucinate, see myself in the fire. The scene was so fresh in my mind that I would forget that I'm at home and I'm with people. So I would just rise and shout and run away until I was taken to hospital. I was given some medicine. My mind at least settled a little bit. Then there was a lot of activities, especially for the survivors, because the CIDs, the CID, they would come home anytime, any hour, force you write a statement. Another team comes tomorrow to confirm you're called to Machakos, you're called back to school. It was very bad.
After the incident, he went back to the same school.
So I was given an option either to take any school of my choice, to go there. That is the only time I was allowed to choose any school in Kenya, whether Alliance or whichever I chose.
Sure.
It was an open check, but I had a lot of fear that any other school could ban,
Sure.
but not Changuli. So I chose to go back to Changuli, but this time as a day scholar.
Oh, yeah. It was not far from home.
It was about 7 kilometers.
You used to walk.
Yes, most of the time. I did that. Since most majority of the students and the survivors never went back, by that time I was appointed the school captain. So together with other boys, we suggested that we were comfortable to begin boarding. But I would tell you, the nights were very long. You would think that the dead boys would wake up. That is hallucination.
Yeah.
But deep in my heart, there was a lot of fear.
You had the conviction of peace.
There was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And so, but when I went back there, that is where I got now the opportunity and the journey towards complete healing.
Wow.
Because the University of Nairobi, through Professor Ndete, were doing data analysis for Bombolulu, which had gotten banned in Mombasa, and St. Kizito, then Changuli.
Kizito, that's in Meru.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they picked a student from each of the institutions. So I was picked from Changuli as the school captain. So when I went there, I met one of the data analysts, a psychiatrist called Dr. Violet Okech. Currently, I understand she is in Kenyatta National Hospital. So it is Violet who discovered that there was a lot of bitterness in me. I would get easily irritable. And you know, at home, they just thought I was naughty or a bad. I had become a notorious boy. But Violet saw it was the effects of the trauma. So the 17 days that we were in Mombasa, like 12 of them, we spent every evening and every morning with Violet. I didn't know she was debriefing me, but there was a lot of change. She would give me walkie-talkie. Is it walkie-talkie or Walkman? They're the small radios with cassettes, cassette players.
Yeah.
She had the Women of Faith cassette, Boundless Love. Love lifted me. It's very fresh in my mind and in my heart.
Can remember.
Yes. Whenever we took a break and traveled to Malindi, to Kilifi, she would give me her small radio. I go listening to that music. It really warmed my heart towards God. And I loved God again. And I became a very devoted Christian.
Pastor Ngao's message is to people that have experienced or are going through difficult incidents in their lives.
I would say to anyone that if we, as Christians and as a people, we can believe God by the written word in the Bible and believe in Him and have faith in Him, because we only have one thing that we have been given. And without that, you can never do the will of God. You can never please God. And it's through it that we get rewarded. Now the things that we get as testimonies are rewards of our walk with God. So I would say to anyone that God is love and God loves us. God cares for us. It's only our minds that feel that what we are going through is too much, but it's never much with God. If we can believe that God works together for good, for those who will have Him, and we do the only thing that He wants us to do, to love Him. If we can love God and express love through giving, and when I say giving, I'm not talking about money. Give God your time, give God your worries, give God everything that you have. If you can do that, your life will change.
The next recap testimony is of Wanjan Dongo. She was a victim of rape when young.
I used to live at High Rise Estate, and he was living at Pumwani hostels. And so I decided, you know what, let me take to him the sympathy card. And because he was at the hostels, obviously you let the security guard know, I want to talk to so-and-so. So the security guard goes and calls him, because then we didn't have any phones. So goes and calls him, and then he comes, and then obviously I knew I'm just passing it on to him, because you're not allowed to go into the men hostels. Yeah. And for some reason, he invited me in, and I was allowed to go in. But what happened is that, you know, the hostels, you know, the way they have 2 rooms on each side, you know, there's this floor, and then a long highway. But I remember his room was all the way at the end. And obviously, I think it was a double-decker room. That's what they are used to have, like 2 double-deckers. Yeah, so what I remember is that he asked me to go ahead of him. And so, you know, the way you can just open the door and let someone in. Yeah. But that is the moment that whatever happened to him, he decided to grab my mouth and shut my mouth. And at that very moment, he raped me. And I mean, it took a very, very short period of time that it happened so quickly that you almost don't know. You can't even recalculate like exactly what had happened. At this time, I mean, I had kept myself pure because I remember when we were growing up, my mom always used to say, you know, any other sin is outside of the body, but the sin of fornication is with the body. So I knew that I needed to keep myself pure, and I was holding that very highly in my life. And so when this happened, it was the very first time ever. So I'm usually very kind of open about this. I didn't even know there was penetration, because I had never experienced something like this before. And then obviously he was a big man. So, I mean, all his energy and everything was on me. So after that, you know, I went back. We didn't talk. There was no conversation. I just left.
Let me ask you, Wanja, when this happened, first of all, the room was not occupied. No one was in the room.
No one was there.
Then when this happened to you, did you shout? Did you scream? Did you call for help?
No, because he had held onto my mouth. Yeah, and that is what he did the most. He held onto my mouth. And because this is not something I had foreseen, like I didn't know what reaction, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? I mean, what is he doing? Yeah. You know, there are all those things, you know, that are going through your head. Yeah. So I don't remember screaming, but I do remember him, you know, grabbing onto my mouth. Okay. So then after that, you know, just left, no conversation, no nothing. And I just went back to where I was staying.
He didn't say nothing?
He didn't say anything. I just even didn't look at him. I just walked away. You know, I just put my clothes back on. I actually had trousers, incidentally. And I just put my clothes back on, and I just left, and I went to the room where I was staying at the apartments at High Rise, and I just cried. And I cried myself to sleep.
Later, she sought for refuge in alcohol, thus she became a heavy drinker.
From then on, with all the pain, the guilt, the shame, the sadness, the hurt, and all that, you know, I decided, you know what, you know, there's a way the devil just plans for you some path. Yeah. And so I got into a company of people that were drinking. And coming from a background where people drink, you know, there's a thread of that in the family, and also having the pain that I needed to numb, I easily got into it, and got into it very quickly. And I drank and I drank heavily. And incidentally, all the friends now that I was meeting were drinking friends. So even when I actually stopped going to school and I just decided to get into full-time work. And so I was working full-time, so I was hanging out with friends who we would go out and drink after work. And it became worse with time. And it was really, really bad.
What happened to church and God?
Where did you leave
I was
them?
mad at God because I did not understand why I had served him all this time. I mean, I had given myself completely to God all this time. My question to him was, why did you allow it to happen? I know you'd have stopped it if you wanted, but why did you allow it to happen? And so I was mad at God. I was ashamed being with the church family because I knew what I'd done and I was not trying to go there, be a hypocrite. So I decided to just keep off and just hang out with the people who really didn't know me before, people who just are seeing a new person, in the crowd.
Yeah.
So it was comfortable for me. And so somewhere in 1999, God created a way for me to go to the US. But by this time, it was so bad on me that a cousin that I was staying with, she told me one day that I don't know one day when I'm going to wake up and you're not going to be alive, because the level of the alcohol I was taking, it was so bad that she did not believe that I would wake up the following day.
Through it all, God delivered her and she testifies of his goodness in her life.
Tell me about the person who sexually abused you at the word go.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to a point of, a closure of, letting go? Do you ever talk?
No.
No.
The truth is, I am this person. We only had that one moment that day when it happened. Then after that, in my drinking sprees, vividly, I remember seeing him in a club. Okay. And vividly, I remember trying to go and fight him. And I remember being removed from that place. Okay. And that is the last I know of. I remember seeing him vividly.
But God helped you to heal, to forgive, to let go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And how I know I forgave him, when I came back, I was somewhere driving from Nyeri to Nairobi somewhere. And I remember my friend, our common friend, the one who had told me about the dad's death. She's the same one who helped me out. Yeah, Bush. I remember her calling me and she tells me, oh, I was at a funeral and I met our friend. His name is Jeff. And I met our friend Jeff over there with his wife and kids. And, obviously, I know it's the Jeff. So, I mean, we continue talking. And, we are talking about a whole lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting to where I was going. And that's when I remembered, oh, she mentioned Jeff. Then I was like, it didn't even matter to me that she mentioned that. Because if I had not forgiven him, I would have felt so much pain that, God, you have given him a wife. Yeah. You have actually given him children. Yeah. And this is where I am. Yeah. I don't have any kids. I don't have a husband. Sure. I don't have any... I mean, I have nothing to show for my life because of what happened, because of what he did to me. Yeah. So when I realized that there was no bitterness, no anger, no pain, then I realized, oh, I actually forgave this man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's take a short break and we will be right back with more uplifting testimonies.
Mwaka mpya, Mwaka mpya, huu ni mwaka mpya. Mwaka mpya. Hey, hey, my people, it's Jose J, the Gospel Giant, and I'm here just to wish you a happy new year on behalf of Hope Media and Crisis the Answer Ministry. This is the new year, manze. Enjoy it. We live to the fullest, and God bless all of you. May this year be a year of blessings and everything that you need to come your way. Amen.
Welcome back to Testify. Diana Kamwali was raised in a Christian home.
The young Diana grew up in a Christian family where my parents were, back then they weren't ordained pastors, but now they are. So you can imagine they were, I wouldn't want to say staunch Christians, but they were really into Christianity. They were really into God. They were really into the word. And that is how they brought me up. Yeah, I was born and raised up in the church environment. I only knew church and church. I only knew Jesus songs. I only knew anything and everything to do with God, nothing else. And yeah, that was me, you know, when growing up. Yeah. I didn't know too much of the secular world. I just knew just the God.
When she went to school, she got into a friendship that changed the course of her life.
So he was like, no, I know when you go to that university, while I am in another university, you'll cheat on me, blah, 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 blah. And then he broke up with me.
Because of that?
Because of that.
Okay.
So the young me, the naive me, I would say I was really naive. The naive me, the innocent me, I really got heartbroken. Really, really so heartbroken. And that's when I started finding consolation from other places, from other people, trying to look for people and things that I could relate my pain with. I remember when I was reporting, I would cry. When my mom left me after reporting to school, I cried the entire of September. I would just, after class, I go back to my hostel room and cry and cry and cry and cry. So until one of my classmates noticed me, and then he was like, oh, by the way, we have a party, blah, 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 would you like to join us? You're going to have fun. And I told him, I'm not comfortable with that. He was like, no, I assure you, you'll have a lot of fun. Let's just go and try. That was the beginning of all the problems. So I went there. Of course, there were drinks, there were drunks, there were a lot of music, there were a lot of, let me say, nudity, because the dress code, I was not used to that dress code.
The church girl has a long...
Exactly. So I am in that environment, and okay, because I am there, I don't want to be branded that boring girl. So I tried to, try to get in, try to blend in. So from there, it became a routine.
Mm-hmm. What did trying to mingle and get into whatever they were doing mean? Did it mean tasting something?
Of
dancing?
Of course.
Okay.
I tried the dancing, like there were these games that were there, and we would be told, now it's time for you to dance. It's either you drink or you dance. It's either you do this or that. So in one way or another, you'll end up either drinking or dancing or just, being caught up in all of that. So from that day, I knew how alcohol tasted. I knew how weed, marijuana, now the bang, though it tasted. I experienced some hallucinations that same day. And I also you know, like got to listen to some songs, that's when I knew, oh, there are songs called reggae. Oh, there are songs called hip hop. Oh, there are local songs. I actually knew nothing about all that.
Diana made a decision to follow Christ and encourages other young ladies in their salvation.
There is no life out of Jesus. There's actually no life out of Jesus. I have tried both lives. I have been into Christ. I have been into the world. The things that seem fun in the world, they are fun in quotes. But in reality, it's just another hell on earth. There's no fun in it. And I believe there is life and life abundance in Christ. There is refreshment in Christ. There is total healing no matter what you're going through, no matter the kind of depression you're going through. Killing yourself, taking your life, it's not the solution. Being violent, it's not the solution. I have tested, I have tried, and I can prove that Jesus is the only way, the only solution, no matter what you're going through. Jesus is the only solution. Hiding in Him, finding your comfort in Him is the most satisfying thing anyone can ever do and can ever have.
Ruth Kilemi testifies of how God blessed her with a child after 8 miscarriages.
And I conceived again. And this time my neighbor helped me to get a job in a real estate company. Remember, I don't have any papers.
Yeah, you
so
dropped
for me,
out of school.
This one is just God doing. Me, I don't have any papers, but wherever I went for interviews, I was given a job. There was always that divine connection, like God would use someone to take me somewhere, you know. So and this neighbor of mine helped me get a job. And I got a job just around Syokimau. And one day, Naitore, I'm just sitting in the car office, and I felt something. So I decided to go to the toilet. And I noticed I was bleeding. Wow, I called my husband. I even decided to take myself to hospital. I went to the hospital. By that evening, the following day, the doctor comes and he's like, you know, they've run some tests and all that. And the doctor asks, who told you are pregnant? I'm like, see, these are the results because I'm carrying all the document. And that is how I lost that pregnancy.
Okay. Shortly after conceiving.
Shortly after conceiving, now I lost my second pregnancy.
Okay.
And wow, I am back again, grieving. I cried to God again. Do you remember I'm not even born again?
Yeah.
Backsliding this old kitambo. And this is 2011, 2012. And so one day, so this is my second one. So out of that company, I made some money. And I'd started just like a simple restaurant. And this mama who was working for me was born again. And they used to have those home sales. You know, I came to understand home sales are very important. So they were having these home sales, and on their way back, like she went for the home sale because she was the one who was hosting people that day. So they came with the members too, and they decided to let them say hi to the boss. So there's this guy there. He was a caretaker in a certain church, in their church. And so this guy asked me, what do you want God to do for you? That is 2013. And I'm like, for sure, if there is this God you're talking about, I want this God to give me a baby. And he tells me, for God to give you this, you have to give yourself to Him. Sasa you can imagine, ni jioni saa ile hoteli kanashikanga, kuna watu wanakunywa chai and all that. And now this guy asked me, are you ready to give your life to Christ? You know, I said yes. There was this friend of mine there who used to come that evening and do samosas there outside. You know, she was a Mjaluo, and she's like, watu wakuja kufukuzia customer na hizi makelele zao and all that. But for me, he prayed for me.
You agreed?
Yeah, I agreed. We sat in the table and I offered him tea, and the mama told me, it doesn't take things from strangers. So I'm like, this I has to take mine. How not? He has to take mine. So I told him, if you want to pray for me, you have to take my teeth, then you will pray for me. So, we even started negotiating.
Okay.
And later he prayed for me, and I gave my life to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that season, my husband decided even to go and pay the dowry at my father's place, So everything started like things not starting to move. And you know what? I conceived.
Mm-hmm.
So I conceived again. And after conceiving, the first 3 months, I started bleeding again. And I went to this guy and I told him, you told me to give my life to God. And if I give my life to God, He will give me a baby. Now see my life again. I'm about to lose this child. And I remember this guy saying, that the way they talk, and they said, if for sure wewe ni Mungu wa ukweli, wacha huyu mama ashike mtoto. So I went to the hospital. The doctors decided to put me into progesterone, those just to stop the bleeding, to strengthen the uterus and all that. And I was given the 2 weeks bed rest. So because the scan showed there was no baby.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm bleeding. The scan has been done, and the doctor says there's no baby, but there's a sack. So there's a house for a baby, but inside that house, there is no baby. So the doctor suggests I go home for 2 weeks. Then after coming back, after 2 weeks, they will take me for cleaning and all that. Remember, my guy is here praying because God has to prove himself. He has to prove himself. And guess what? And this is my testimony. When I went back to the hospital, and the scan was done again because they want to see if there's any clottings, but they need to clean and all that, there was a heartbeat.
Praise God.
The baby was back.
Amen. From wherever.
Wherever.
Wow.
So my baby was back to the sack.
Amen.
And I'm like, ukweli Mungu huyo diambo ni ukweli. Amecheza kama yeye. So the baby was back. And now the doctors has to monitor my pregnancy because now this is a very delicate pregnancy and all that. And I can tell you what, Naintore, I enjoyed that pregnancy. The bleeding stops. The baby continued to grow very well. And I gave birth to a son.
Amen.
And his name is Samuel.
Oh.
We call him Prophet Samuel.
Thank God.
Yes.
She encourages couples who are trusting God for the gift of children.
Don't give up on God. He's a faithful God. He's a merciful God. He's a God full of compassionate and full of love. And when the right time comes, He will bless you. Remember, I have Samuel. If today I did not have a Samuel in my life, I know my enemies will be so happy. But God is so faithful that He gave me that one just to stand and say that He's able to do. I always say this, if God blessed me in 2013, even now, He can do it for me.
Lastly, meet Pastor Johnson Moffat.
Every man of God has a scar.
Wow.
Never forget that.
Growing up, he engaged in alcohol drinking.
My brother, who's right now living in South Africa, by then he was here before he went to study, introduced me to going out.
Oh.
Going out, and the same year we had in my culture, the Kikuyu culture. My father had a group of old men who they used to work together. So they used to visit one another. And when they visit one another, number one, they have to eat meat. Number two, they have to drink the African Kikuyu brew called Moratina.
Okay.
When I went to Form 1, and the school that I went to Form 1 in Moranga was there for for few years. Then I remember very well, 2003. That is the first time, you know Sean Paul?
Yeah.
That is the first time he came to Carnival.
Yeah.
And I was one of those guys who used to go for those.
Yeah, they call it Dunda.
Yeah, Dunda. I used to go for those Dunda.
Okay.
I remember that's the time when I went back to school. I had sneaked from school.
Oh.
Yeah, I had sneaked from school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the good boy is turning into something else.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
he was in Nairobi. So you were in school in Murang'a?
Yes.
You took off from Murang'a to Nairobi?
Yeah, with my friends, with a couple of
for party.
Yes, to party.
Okay.
Yes. We sneaked out. I don't know today, but that's how we used to do. We used to sneak out and go for this Dunda. And you're in school, and your mom and your dad know that you're in school. Yeah. But sometimes you're just in Nairobi, doing all those things. So I remember that time when we went back to school, some of us we were expelled. And after that, now my father had to look for a school for me. So the school that I went was such a, I don't know which word to use, but I went there and met those hard boys. Those crooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And I got into their company. So I started now doing the hard drugs. I started now doing banging weed, which nowadays is nothing. Back then in 2003, it was such a hard thing. You couldn't find a young person smoking weed. Today, right now, it's there's weed cake, there's weed cookie. Unfortunately, yeah. But by then, so I started now doing that when I met now these hardcore boys.
Yeah.
Later in his life, he met a stranger who led him to Jesus and became a pastor.
I happened to get into this matatu and I met this girl. So I went and sat there, and this girl, I gave her my orbit, and we started talking. It's 1 hour from town to Ngong those days. We didn't have the bypass, we didn't have, Yeah. So 1 hour you're talking to somebody. So when you reach at the stage, you ask for her number. So now I met this girl and I asked for her number, and she told me, no. If you want my number, come to church on Sunday.
Oh wow.
Come to Sitamgong on Sunday. So but we knew Sitamgong since it was planted in 2003, but you didn't want to go to church.
Yeah.
I told you, if you're scared, go
to church. Oh.
Yeah. So this time I met this girl, and she told me, let's go. You come for my number
in church.
In church on Sunday, and man, I will go and get it. So on Sunday I go to Sitamgong. So I'm in Sitamgong on Sunday, and after one thing about Sitam, if you are new, after that you have to be taken to the welcome place, and so that you may have a drink. So that fellowship, and I meet some of my friends now there, and they tell me, get born again. I'm thinking, how?
What's that?
What?
Why?
I have life outside there.
Yeah.
A good life. Why am I coming to church? To do what?
Yeah.
For me, I'm here to get my number. Then I get out of this place. So, and that day I met that girl. And I told, after all of those things, you're there in the welcome, you're given tea, after that. There's a friend of mine I met there. His name is Gashero. He's still my friend today. Mm-hmm. So he told me to get born again, and I told him, no. Who will I leave the alcohol and all that, and all that life for? Now, after that, I met this girl, and I told her, now I came for the number you give me. She told me, I'm not giving you my number. Come on Wednesday.
Aha.
Wow.
I like this girl.
Wow. I came on Wednesday for an evening service. I remember very well, it was an evening service in the youth hall. And because I didn't meet her, so I was shown where the meeting is. So I go to, to this meeting, and, I want the pastor just to preach. And then I leave this place.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here. So the pastor preached, and he's preaching about my life.
How so?
How there are people who are addicted to this thing, and God has a good plan for you. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's getting into my nerves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when will this thing
end?
And I go, and I'm sweating, because this person is preaching about your life. And I remember the pastor, I will never forget, Edward Gaira was the one preaching that. By then he was in Sitamgong. And he kept on saying, and I know that there's somebody, God is telling me there's a young man in this place. You've been called for ministry. You are addicted and all that. And I'm like, I need to get out of this place. I need to get the number and get out of this place. And I cannot tell you what happened. I can't tell you what happened. But that is the day I walked from where I was so convicted, and I walked from the seat where I was to the pulpit.
Oh, wow.
And he got.
Amen.
That's how I got born again. When I left the church, I didn't meet the girl until today.
You've never met her?
Thank you. She
Wow.
didn't have friends.
Oh.
She didn't have friends.
Sure.
Yes. Until today, I have never seen her.
Wow.
I've never met her. So for me, I keep on saying, I met an angel.
This was his message to the young people.
And it doesn't matter what you're going through right now. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to. God is able to change your life. God is able to heal. He did it for me. He changed my life. And right now, I'm just ministering here in Sitamvai Road as a pastor. He can change your life. And I'm not saying that all of you will become pastors. No. But any young man who is listening to me right now, don't waste your life. Don't waste your life. God is able to change your circumstances. God is able to change your storms.
Thank you for watching Testify. I believe that you have been encouraged. Let's meet next week to listen to an encouraging and uplifting testimony.